Welcome back to the Social Web TV, the internet TV show that answers the question, who owns your data? With these two simple words, you do. And yet again, an historic week.
Absolutely. It's, I guess most people focused on the election
Yes,
this week.
Absolutely amazing. But not just one important election.
Yeah, well, I guess that's true. There was the presidential election as well. I assume you were referring to the Open Social Foundation's community board election, which I was elected to. Thank you to all my supporters, and I think it's a real triumph of the use of social media and a kind of a grassroots campaign. Obama, another Illinois guy, he did pretty well too. That was nice to see. So we're really kind of representing.
So we're recording this on the day after the historic U.S. presidential election. And I was struck by a number of things as I was following this and watching last night. One of the things I was struck by is that we are very passionate about social applications, what people data can do to change the web and make it more interesting, but more useful as well. And I think so many ways what happened in this election is a real illustration of the importance of the stuff we talk about on this show. In fact, there are a bunch of different reasons why Barack Obama won, but one of them clearly is that campaign leveraged social media and people power more effectively than McCain's team did. There's an article in Technology Review that goes behind the scenes to describe some of the tools. It's a month old, so it doesn't have quite every detail. But
well, you just look at the statistics of the breadth of donors he had across the grassroots and the number of people who would get involved through the websites. And his Twitter account has 120,000 followers. So that's like more Scoble than Scoble. Right. It's amazing that Twitter stayed up last night, not only with the volume of tweets, but when one message like that has to go to 120,000 people, that's a serious scalability challenge.
And Facebook and MySpace were a key part of this as well. And I think
that was 1 million people donated their status message on Facebook to get out the vote. That's pretty amazing using the Causes app. And I think 5 million clicked the I voted button on Facebook. And so that's pretty big numbers to get people doing in one day. I think CNN had 27 million unique users visit the site yesterday.
And I think
and they all stayed up.
The Obama website itself is a kind of a social network, and I think it was put together by someone who was originally involved in Facebook.
Chris Hughes, the co-founder, left to work on the Obama campaign and did a lot of their social networking stuff, and and the Causes guys too. A lot of these, there's been a lot of energy from Silicon Valley and activism for Obama. And
one of the most creative things that I think that I saw was also the Obama iPhone application, and. Although the iPhone platform is still to some degree closed in that the apps are governed or gated by Apple Corporation, it really is a much more open platform than phones have been historically. The fact that any developer can create an app and that can be a pretty viral spread. This application actually is a really cool thing you could do with people data, literally with address book. Essentially looks at your address book and sees who is living in a swing state, and essentially gives you a prioritized call list to help get out the vote. So
talk about a great application of portable contacts, right?
Exactly.
Very clever idea of sort of sorting by where they live and then letting you use your address book to become a political activist without having to go down to a phone bank, just using your own phone. So very clever and creative use. Exactly the kind of thing you'd expect when you set the data free and empower people to do things you hadn't anticipated with it.
So if you had any doubts before about how important opening up the social web is, look to the U.S. presidential election of a sign of how significant this stuff can be.
I don't want to go as far as saying that Obama couldn't have won without OpenID, but let's look at the results, right? OpenID is taking off, Obama got elected. The correlation is hard to miss. Yeah.
All right, other things have been going on as well, some conferences. You were at a few in the last couple days?
It's the middle of conference season, right? We've talked about some in the past, and this week we had, here in the Bay Area, we had the Business of APIs conference on Monday. We had the Widget Summit on Monday and Tuesday. We had DFrag going on meanwhile. We had ApacheCon going on. That's why David Recordon's not with us. He's down at ApacheCon. I guess what's interesting to me, we got, and of course we've got the Internet Identity Workshop coming up next week that we're all very excited about. In each of these conferences, just amazing to see how much talk of the open stack has really become what everybody wants to talk about, and not because we're there talking about it. This Business of APIs conference, I sort of went and recorded as well, check it out, and there were 3 keynotes. One was Michael Hart of Netflix, former guest on this show, talking about the business case for Netflix's API, which of course, among other things, showed off the Plaxo integration and talked about the importance of using open standards like OAuth and Atom so that people could just go and integrate with it without having to learn how to write new code or without Netflix having to convince them to use their proprietary technology. Then the second keynote was Alan Herf, the SVP of MySpace, also a guest of this show, right? And he was talking about how committed MySpace is to the open stack and how excited they are to be working on OpenID and OAuth and portable context, and had a great slide with all the different technologies that MySpace is supporting. And same thing there, saying that he had this great line about we find it easier to embrace the community with their own standards rather than trying to get them to adopt ours. He said it a bit more eloquently than that, but you think about it, MySpace is the largest site on the web. You'd think they could sort of bully people around if they wanted, but even mighty MySpace has found that it's an easier path to go with the technologies that people are already comfortable using. One
of the cool things too is that in so many of these different presentations, there's this one illustration that keeps showing up. It's something that Michael Rowley of Plaxo developed for, I think, your Web 2.0 talk in New York, which shows how everyone's got the same vision now, where the walled garden model is dying and being replaced by something new. And that what's really cool is most people are building on the new open stack. So maybe, Redgee, can you put that visual right up here somewhere?
It's our own version of the CNN hologram. Then the third keynote, just to finish up, was from Best Buy, and again talking about what we talked about on this show previously with gift tag and using microformats and releasing their catalog and realizing how important. They had this great little video clip from Best Buy's CEO saying, we've got to understand how to engage with our users at the whole life cycle of what they're doing, not just at the point of sale. And they're experimenting with all these different technologies. So this was not our people out there. This was they picked them to run the keynote for this business conference on APIs, but OpenStack becoming not only top of mind for all of them, but what they're actually building their real strategy on the ground from. So and similarly at the Widget Summit, lots of talk of open social and expanding the notion of what's possible with widgets in a world where you have access to all this data. So anyway,
neither of us were there at the DFRAG conference in Denver, but Charlene Lee, who's a very influential former Forrester analyst and author of a book, Groundswell, her keynote presentation, we'll provide a link to the deck that she used, is really quite amazing. It is everything that we've been talking about. And
she's also talking about OpenStack in that same tent, so that's really exciting to say.
And she's someone who years ago predicted that social networks would become like air. So she's been a real thought leader in this space of opening up the social web. So, big stuff going on. I think, and next week we've got the Internet Identity Workshop, which
Monday to Wednesday at the Computer History Museum. And if you're in the area or you think you can be in the area, again, really recommend you try to come to that. It's where so much progress actually happens for all of these OpenStack technologies. And you can believe that all the people we've been talking about and all the technologies we've been talking about will be there and figuring out the next pieces and how to make it go forward. So,
and in fact, some of the folks who were at the OpenID User Experience Summit and agreed to form a working group are going to convene there to make some progress. Also, we'll be filming there.
I guess we have no choice since we'll be there.
We've got to cover it for you.
Yes.
Before we go, we did get some interesting tchotchkes at the Widget Summit.
Yeah, some cookies from Yahoo. I can now say I've stolen Yahoo cookies.
So open kind of
cookies. Security joke there.
Plus
the Yahoo Open pamphlet, very exciting.
It's kind of like the banner in pamphlet form.
This kind of this is the previous episode, OpenID, OAuth, Open Social. Going mainstream even in the lifetime of our humble little television show.
Cool. Well, another historic week. Looking forward to next week's Internet Identity Workshop. Please join us for another exciting episode of the Social Web TV.